The lights, camera, live, you guys. It's going to be a ton of fun. I've got the one, the amazing, the only Goldie Chan on today's show. We're going to be talking about personal branding. So if that's something that you've been thinking about, something that you've been questioning on what you can do as you build your brand and your bottom line, then this is the episode for you. So come on in, come and hang out, because Goldie is doing some super amazing things that I can't wait to tell you about. So having said that, let's go ahead and bring Goldie onto the show. Goldie, say what's up.
Hey everyone!
So you guys, if you don't know who Goldie is one of LinkedIn's top voices 2018, and she also has a daily live video on LinkedIn, which is probably where you've seen her, because to this date, how many views have you been getting on your LinkedIn videos?
Oh my gosh, so I don't know exactly the total count right now, but it's over 4 million.
Okay. I love how you're like, oh, well, just a little short of 4 million. That's amazing, you guys. That's absolutely so cool. So for those of you that are just tuning in, let us know where you're watching from. I'm here in sunny San Diego, and Goldie, you are in
sunny Los Angeles. So we're actually very close to each other.
Love it, love it, love it. Yeah, and you've been traveling all over. Right, I feel like just trying to pin you down is like, where is Goldie now? Instead of like, where is Carmen San Diego? It's really like, where is Goldie Chan? And so tell me, where was the last place that you just came from right now?
So I was just in Santa Barbara, and tomorrow night I am flying out to New York. So you caught me on my 24-hour block of being back home.
Oh, that's so good. Doesn't it feel nice to just be at home and just take a deep breath? You're like, okay, this is it. Soak it all in, and then you're traveling all over again.
Yes. I know you feel the same because you just came back from, the Midwest. Something in the Midwest. Yeah. I always get the name of the conference wrong. But I know that you just spent a week there, so you completely get it. Sometimes the best thing is coming home and spending time at home.
That's very true. So for those of you that are just tuning in, I see Jennifer, who is tuning in from St. Louis. That's where I was. So good to see you. You guys, we're talking about personal branding today and how it can help you build your brand online and build your bottom line. And there's no other person that I would love to have talk about this subject other than Goldie Chan, because she is everywhere and she is living proof that you could build a brand and really become top of mind and tip of tongue. In fact, Goldie, I've been following you, and there's this one thing that you posted not so long ago about when you first started doing your videos, and someone had like this really nasty comment, and you decided to go ahead and print it out and put it on your shirt. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So I actually was not the one that decided to print that out and put on a shirt. One of my friends decided to print it out and put on a shirt because I screen capped it and I posted it on Facebook. It was my first ever, really big, mean troll comment that I got for just creating content on LinkedIn. So now as video has grown a little bit more, people are more used to seeing video, period, on LinkedIn. But when I started, there was just no such thing. And so people were just like, what are you doing? This content exists on Facebook. You shouldn't be making videos on LinkedIn. Like, get out of here, which I thought was so funny because I'm kind of amused by everything. And so I just wrote back like, thank you for your interesting opinion, because when people hate on your content, when people hate on your content strategy, it's an opinion. It's not fact.
It's not law. That's very true. And I think a lot of people need to remember that as they're starting out, right? Because they're opening themselves up to a lot of judgment. And so having said that, let's talk about personal branding, because you are the go-to expert for this. You write about this in Forbes and Adweek and all these amazing things. If you were developing and growing your brand, where should you start?
So I always tell people that the number one place to start when you're thinking about growing your brand is, who is your demographic, right? So before you even think about who you'd like to be or what image you'd like to pull off, who do you want to talk to? Where do they live, both online and offline? What is their age range? What do they do for work? I always think who. So it's always the who first. And then after the who, it's the why. Why do you want to have a personal brand? Why do you want to target this particular demographic? And then you can start getting into the really fun stuff, like the what, right? What will you do in order to attract this audience? Is it a physical appearance thing? Is it the content that you create? Like Stephanie does amazing lives. So that is the content that, obviously she uses to pull in her really happy and loving audience. And so I always think it goes who first, and then why, and then what.
Got it. And what about those people where they feel like, okay, I want to be the go-to expert about personal branding? How do they get over that negative voice in their head that says, what makes you the subject matter expert? Like, why should you be the one? Do you ever like come across that imposter syndrome?
Yes. I think every single person has gone through imposter syndrome at some point where they feel like, oh my gosh, am I really the one that is best qualified to speak on this? Mm-hmm. But you have to understand, I always think about this the same way as mentorship too, which is you are always uniquely qualified to know just at least a little bit more than other people out there. And with that little bit more, that's what you can teach. So instead of maybe thinking I know everything, think about it this way. Do you know just a little bit more than other people out there? And what is that little bit more that you're able to teach? But yes, imposter syndrome is so very real. We have all been there. And I think part of it is understanding you just have to live with it, because we all struggle with imposter syndrome from time to time.
I love that advice in terms of, just remembering that you have a different experience and maybe someone else has kind of like the same tips and same advice, but because you've gone through it in a different way, in a different route, people can relate to you and your story. Because so much about you, Goldie, in just meeting you this year and getting to know a lot about you, is that you're very much all about celebrating diversity and getting different stories and different perspectives. And that's very different from what I hear from other people talking about personal branding, because they're like, oh, have a logo, do this and do that. But you're very much like, what's your story? And how is that going to resonate with people? And it gives me goosebumps just talking about you, because I'm like, oh, she's absolutely amazing.
Well, thank you. And yes, so I have to say yes, story. Because we just focus on these little bullet points. Like, I think a logo is a bullet point. Now, of course, yes, you need to have these things, right? You need to know what colors you're using in general with your content. You need to have a logo. You need to have a strategy, etc. But sometimes we forget the most important point. Oh my gosh, there's Chris. Hi, Chris. We forget the most important point, which is, what is the story, right? Why should they care about you? What is that really beautiful, unique, amazing, special thing that you bring to the table?
I love that. And not a lot of people know this about you. At least I didn't, but you are a published geneticist?
Yes.
Graduated from Stanford?
Yes. So actually, I'm coming up on one of my reunion times, I guess, at Stanford. And so my ex-roommate from Stanford, she is so great and so full of Stanford pride. I heard her. I maybe have a little bit less pride than she does. So we had to fill out these class pages. So I just wrote a little bit about my experience at Stanford. And yes, I basically spent all of my time in a genetics lab at Stanford. So before I even graduated, I was able to be published as an undergrad, which is a big deal.
Yeah.
And also while I was there, I did a ton, which is not surprising to anyone. I did a ton of diversity work, a ton of mentorship, a ton of, just because it's Stanford, especially for the younger people I was speaking to, like high schoolers, like just because you think this is an unattainable goal doesn't mean it has to be. You can get into Stanford. And even if you don't get into Stanford, you can become, say, a doctor, or you can become what it is that you are passionately driven to become. Yeah. And this is what I was saying at 20, and this is still what I'm saying at a little over 20.
Oh my God, I am so happy I am not on the screen because I was like, okay, 20s.
I
I
mean, just
remember
like a
that.
little bit, right? Like, just a little over 20.
Oh my God, okay. This is what I love about live streaming is that sometimes my guests crack me up so much that like I'm the type where like I laugh and then I cry because all the lights are in my eye at the same time. I'm like, you guys.
And can we discuss, you have such a beautiful setup there, Stephanie. Like, look at this gorgeous
Oh, thank
lighting,
you.
full circle lights in your eyes.
You know, you got to. You got to like look alive, right? Okay, so we've talked a lot about, in terms of personal branding, understanding who it is specifically that you want to speak to, what it is, like what your story is, and how that could impact them and how you can help them. What are also some don'ts of personal branding? Like, what are some things to avoid? Because I feel like some people confuse authenticity and transparency when it comes to personal branding. And I'd love to hear your thoughts
Yes.
on that.
Oh my gosh, let's start with that first. So, there is a huge difference between authenticity and transparency, or the way I call it is between telling the truth 1,000% of the time and white lies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because in every person's life, we will tell white lies at some point, which are lies that we tell that don't hurt anyone, but maybe help the situation because we worry about other people's feelings. And the same thing is true with a personal brand. You have to be selective. So it's not that you aren't being authentic. You're selecting and choosing parts of you that are actually you.
Yeah.
So that's the point. You're not fabricating anything. You're not making anything up, but you are just very carefully picking out your favorite things. You're picking out only the green M&Ms out of the M&M pack.
Hey, which I bet you a lot of people want me to ask the question. So I'm going to ask the question, Goldie. Why the green? Why the
So
green?
why the green? I get asked that all the time. I used to cycle through my hair color every 3 to 4 months. So before this green, it was bright blue. Before that was gray. Before that was white. Before that it was, I think, pink. So I landed on green. I actually thought green would be the shortest amount of time I'd have a hair color because it is so bright and so obvious. I was like, well, I'm going to do this once in my life and then never again, just to get it out of my system, because green is actually my favorite color. I do love green. And then in August of 2017, it was about 2 to 3 months into having green hair, I was invited into the LinkedIn video beta. And so I started creating content on LinkedIn, the kind of content I wanted to see. And I didn't do what I advise people to do right now, which is like, who is your audience? And like, why are you creating the content? And like all these beautiful strategic things that I definitely tell my clients. And I definitely didn't do when I started making videos. But I started making these videos that I love that were on pop culture branding and metrics in the US. And they took off. They did really, really well. And to be fair, the first couple videos, they would get like 10 views, 20 views, right? But after one of my videos got like 100 views, I was like, oh, I'm famous. Which I look back on it now and I think is really funny, but I genuinely felt that way. I was like, wow, 100 people viewed this. Like, right? Amazing. Which is scale. You went from 10 to 100? That's amazing scale. So I have been keeping the green hair because then Huffington Post called me the green-haired Oprah of LinkedIn. And after that, you know, because I know branding, I was like, well, why don't I just keep it for a while? Yeah. So in my head, a while was going to be like 3 to 6 months, and then this whole LinkedIn video thing would die down, and then I would just change my hair color to the next color that I want to change it to. And that interest, that fervor hasn't died down. So until it does, you know, my hair is still bright green. And in fact, one thing that I'm wearing right now, I don't know if you guys can see it. This is a beautiful little green heart that I got from one of my fans that I ran into at South by Southwest. So he had gotten it just for me and brought it and was hoping to run into me, which is very, very sweet. So the green heart emoji symbol represents me on the LinkedIn platform.
Oh, wow. That is, wait, on the LinkedIn the new reactions on there?
No. So
I was like, wait, you guys, she has her own reaction on LinkedIn.
I
That's
did for
next
a
level.
while have my own stickers on LinkedIn videos. So if you create a video on LinkedIn, you can kind of go through some of the stickers that are available. And for a while, a couple of them, I think they're still there, were different phrases that I say or different hashtags that I use. And so
Yeah.
you can use some of the hashtags and phrases that I use on your LinkedIn videos.
Or if you guys want some Goldie Chan gifts, well, then we've got actual Goldie Chan gifts. Like, how did this even happen, Goldie? Can you please tell me the background? Like, because this is all you. These are
Yeah.
all like, I love the movie theater one. Tell me, how did this partnership even start?
So many of my partnerships are because brands reach out to me and they say, I find you super interesting and weird, which is actually what, to be fair, LinkedIn messaged me with after I created 10 videos on the platform. They're like, Goldie, we find you really weird and interesting. Can we talk to you? And I'm like, oh, I'm in trouble now. And I feel like a lot of these partnerships have happened that way. So when Tenor GIF, which is the main competitor for Giphy,
Mm-hmm.
reached out to me, they were just like, hey, we think you're really interesting. Can we talk to you? And so when I talked to them, I thought that they were trying to sell me something for my marketing agency. So
Yeah.
I was just like, great, like, tell me what your plans are. Tell me all this. They're like, no, I think you are misunderstanding this call. We want to talk to you about your brand and getting you up on Tenor GIF as your own GIF and getting some LinkedIn GIFs up there. So for a while, if you search for LinkedIn, you would only see my face because I
Oh
was
my
the
God.
trend on if you looked on Twitter or you looked on Facebook or you looked on WhatsApp or any of these other places that use both Tenor GIF and Giphy, or of course LinkedIn messaging, if you literally typed in LinkedIn, you just get my face. And I think that's really funny. But a lot of these partnerships, like WeWork, last year I was the global brand ambassador for WeWork. This
Mm-hmm.
all happened because different brands are seeing my content
Yeah.
and then thinking, okay, this content and this message is aligned to who and what our brand is. So we want to bring you in to represent our brand. And that is a piece of advice I want to give you about thinking about brand partnerships is you have to make sure it makes sense,
Yeah.
right? So if I had a couple of brands that definitely didn't make sense reach out to me. One was a toothbrush company, and um, electric toothbrush, and I think it's great, but I'm also not an Instagram model for whatever way my life has gone. I'm just not that person, unfortunately, and so I wouldn't be the best person to sell that product either or represent that product. And I don't talk about teeth. I don't talk about beauty stuff
Mm-hmm.
often. So I just responded back with that. I was like, hey, thank you so much, but we're not aligned. Like my brand is not necessarily aligned with your brand. So this wouldn't really help either of us. And I think that's what you really have to think about when you're thinking about brand partnerships is it aligned with the brand that you're trying to build, right? So we're
Yeah.
all growing our brand. We're all expanding our brand and what our brand means and who we work with and who we collaborate with. It's so important to have partnerships that really expand positively on your brand and get you in the direction you want to go. And I turned down a lot of opportunities where I could be making, like, ooh.
I know,
But
yeah.
yeah,
Because I mean, it's
I,
it's it's a
and
balancing act, right? Because some people, when they're developing their brands, are like, yeah, I could get paid, but does this really resonate with my audience? Am I going to sell out? Yeah, I hear you. That makes a ton
and
of
I
sense.
think there is nothing wrong with getting, in fact, you should be getting paid to do work, right? So if
Yes.
you're representing a brand and you're creating content for that brand, you should absolutely be paid to do that. However, I think when we think about selling out, that often means to me, that means there's a bit of a misalignment. That's
Mm-hmm.
what selling out to me means, because it means that you have to bend your brand a little bit in
Yeah.
order to work with them.
That's very, very true. And so Mike Alton is here, and he said that, I love that
Like
alignment. I know, right? Hey,
5 out of 5 mics.
Mike! Wait, we gotta put up his comment on the screen. He says, I love that. Alignment with the brand influencer and messaging is absolutely critical. So, yay, So good to have you here. And Tom Harness says that if he could have green hair, then he would totally rock green hair. You know, Tom, you could get a green wig if you wanted to. I was going to ask you about that, Goldie. Like, have you thought about, you know, wigs and like different colors, and that way you could just play around with it, and then when you feel like being, you know, LinkedIn Goldie Chan, you could just like put on the green one.
So everyone thinks I wear a wig, which now you can see because my hair is literally up. This is attached to my head. Like, see this? This isn't moving. So this is real, guys. This is not a wig. I've thought about wigs. I actually cosplay. So I own a ton of wigs. And I even own a green wig that I got for a Wreck-It Ralph candy racer cosplay that I did for Halloween a couple of years ago. So I own wigs in almost every single color, but I just like waking up and just having my hair be the color that I want it to be. There's something really nice, I think, about that. But, you know, will I change my hair color in the future?
Well, I could
relate, right?
Yeah. Well, and then I could relate with that feeling too, just like wanting to wake up the way that you want to wake up, because people were like, Stephanie, what's up with your eyebrows and your eyeliner? I was like, yo, I got those permanent tattooed because I know I'm going to put on eyeliner, so I just don't even have to worry about it. So
wow, that's amazing. That makes it so much easier.
Oh my gosh.
I just feel that way about sometimes your beauty routine, or not even beauty, but, you know,
Feeling
whatever
good.
aesthetic you like to have. I mean, that's why people use teeth whiteners. That's why people do certain things. But I think it's always nice to look the way you feel the most comfortable.
Yes, absolutely. And so you guys, if you're just tuning in, we're talking about personal branding 101. We've talked about knowing who you are as a person and who you want to specifically target. What are some things that you can do and how you can share your story, and, you know, some really, really thought-provoking tips on how to choose the right brands to partner with, and what the difference is between authenticity and transparency. So if you guys have any questions, by all means, drop them in the comments. One of the questions that we had was from Marissa, and Marissa was saying, if there was someone that you could work with in the industry, who would you actually love to partner up with?
Oh my gosh, this question is so big. Can I just be a nerd and start with this first? I'm going to do part A and part B. So part A is that this year, I have met so many cool people. So obviously, Stephanie is one of them. And all of you who watch Stephanie's show understand how cool it is to meet Stephanie in person. And just so many other amazing creatives, amazing marketers like Brian Solis, Ann Henley, Kathy Hackle, like all of these people that I know from the internets, but I've never met them in person before this year.
Yeah.
So I have to say that I've already met just so many wonderful, amazing people that I'm very thankful to have met this year. And then the part B to that, of course, is my nickname is the Oprah of LinkedIn. So obviously, who I'd love to meet at some point would be Oprah, would be Ellen, would be Ava DuVernay, who's an amazing female director and doing wonderful things in the entertainment community. So.
Oh, I love it. And speaking of which, you are actually on, what is it? You're on the board for the Media Guild, is that right?
Yes. So I'm in the Producers Guild, on the new Media Council. Very wordy. So I started producing a while back, and I got into the Producers Guild, which is very hard to get into, and there are, still almost are very few people of color under the age of 45 who are in the guild. So I feel very lucky and thankful that my content was seen as good enough to get into it, and I actually made a financial drama. That is the reason why they were interested in me.
A financial drama?
It was a financial drama that was kind of almost pre-Netflix, but in the era of when Netflix was really ramping up on their dramatic content. I did it on YouTube. It won a bunch of awards, and it got me into the Producers Guild. So
that's so crazy. Like, a part of me is just like, how did you go from published geneticist over to like green hair and LinkedIn, like, because that's just a whole, that's,
Well, there's several things that happen there. So the short version of that is I graduated with a degree in biology. Um, and I had three different job offers. I had an offer to join an amazing, like amazing HIV lab in San Francisco. I had a job offer to do graphic design for a startup because, of course, even in college, I was doing 50 million things. So I was doing graphic design for an indie label in college. So I got
yeah.
a job offer to do graphic design. And now I'm totally forgetting what, in my old age, I'm forgetting what that
Oh my
third
God,
job
stop.
offer was. Barely past 20. Um,
Oh.
and and I turned down all three of those job offers, and I
Mm-hmm.
started my own fashion line instead.
Oh,
So for 2 years, I ran my own fashion brand, and then a big box store wanted to pick it up, and so I needed a business partner that could help me scale while I continued to design.
yeah.
And and it was just so interesting because I couldn't find the right partner. I didn't have them in my network, which is why network is so important for building your personal brand. Like
Mm-hmm.
meeting as many people and having real engagement with as many people as possible, because that will help you ultimately just scale in life. But at 22, 23, I didn't know somebody who could be CTO of a fashion company.
Yeah.
And I folded up shop. I sat at home and I watched a lot of HGTV and Law and Order SVU. And one day I had what I like to call a friend intervention, which is a friend intervention. And I was sitting at home. I was playing this game called Sims, which is this game that has like these little characters that look, they're like regular people, and you can have them go and get jobs and stuff. And my character is just lying on the ground crying, in a puddle of her own tears. And I'm playing this game, and my friends are like, do you not see what is happening in your life right now? And I'm like, I'm fine. And my first and not last friend intervention led to me getting a job in marketing.
Mm.
So I went and said, you know what? I don't want to do biology anymore. This no longer interests me. I need something that's not in fashion, not in biology, something that's just different so I can figure out what I'm going to do next. And that's how I started doing marketing, social media marketing. Um, it was all because my friends really wanted me to get out of the house and,
And
and
not be
be
lying
and
in your
not be
puddle of tears.
yeah, not be depressed. And so that's how I started on this grand journey of doing marketing. And then sometime later, I started producing content for fun because I thought it was interesting. And that's what's led to, who I am today, which is somebody that does social media strategy, but also produces quite a bit of video content because I've typically done it in-house. One of my last roles before the LinkedIn thing happened, I guess you could
Yeah.
say, was I was working at Legendary Entertainment, running community and social media for Nerdist, Geek and Century, Amy Poehler, Smart Girls. So a lot of their nerd brands. I was the creative soul, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
driver, and my team was behind a lot of that content that came out. So it
That's
was
so
very
badass. I don't know if you guys are geeking out as much as I am. As someone who has gone to Comic Con for like the last 20 years, I know Legendary Entertainment. Like I'm always like at the booth,
They
like what
just
is going
released
on?
Detective Pikachu, in case anyone has never heard of Legendary Entertainment. They've been developing that for a while now. I was lucky enough to hear about it when it kind of was in that first seedling because I was at Legendary. So I'm so excited to see that it is finally out. But yeah, it's so different too to have a personal brand when
Yeah.
you're in house versus a personal brand when you're really more of an independent entrepreneur, which is,
Yeah.
of course, what Stephanie, you and I both are now at this point.
Yeah, but so and that's such a good question because there are many of the viewers that are watching that are probably working a full-time job and have a side hustle where they want to build their personal brand, and how do they do that without fear that their company is going to get mad at them for building their own personal brands? Like when I worked at the agency, Goldie, I would be invited to speak at conferences. And there were rules that I had to apply by, like, well, are you going to mention the agency or are you just going to be talking about yourself? And I was like, well, this is about something that the agency doesn't do. So how do you what's your recommendation for people that are kind of stuck in that situation?
So this is hilariously a talk that I'm going to give at Lego
Oh,
in
see,
four
I'm on the
days.
same path as you.
So you're on
Same
the same
wavelength. Yeah.
same wavelength. And one of the suggestions that I gave this talk actually at Google a couple months ago as well, because, same thing, like Lego and Google are both big companies. They have a really distinctive corporate brand. And when you're an employee that works at just any kind of big corporation or big company, you feel like you might drown a little and your personal brand drowns a little. And I think there's a happy place where you can exemplify not only your personal brand, but also uplift the company that you're at. And the reason why companies should be excited about employees having personal brands at work is that employees they just feel more empowered, and then they feel more empowered to do internal causes and focus on building internally an intrapreneurship, which is the other version of entrepreneurship. So I think that, that's just from the company side of understanding it. Now, from the person who works at a 9 to 5 job, of understanding how to get your boss to understand better why you would want to build a personal brand, if you are pounding the pavement and you are talking about how beautiful and amazing it is to, say, be a corporate employee at WeWork, and how that helps you with whatever it is that you're doing. For example, for my friend Tim, talking about the future of work, and he works at WeWork.
Is that Tim Gillette?
Tim Salou.
Oh, okay.
But maybe Tim Gillette also talks about that, which is great. But there are so many ways that you can now take your personal brand and build your personal brand, but also be such an advocate for the company that you work for. And that is a win-win on both sides, because then your boss knows that when you're going out and pounding the pavement and building your own brand, you are also doing positive publicity for the company or the team or the group that you work for. And I think that is really important.
And so what if I'm just going to role play. Hey, you guys, I could totally do this for you, and I'll be at the conference, and I could raise awareness for our company. And the boss comes back and says, well, what if you just end up leaving us because some other company is going to snatch you up? What would be a rebuttal for that?
And that's such a common question that I get asked. And the companies that get it, like Google and Lego, they're like, no, we understand that having employees be happy at work, part of that is feeling like an individual at work, right? And you're not saying I'm going to leave, but you're saying I want to feel more validated in my work. And part of how I can feel validated and be a better contributor at work is if I feel that I truly am a unique piece of the team, a unique part of the team.
Love that.
And that's often what I tell companies that are on the fence about thinking about personal brands for their team members, their employees.
Love it. And so Michelle Hayward says the company needs to treat you right. Yes, Michelle.
Yes. And that's true too, right? So many employees leave companies because, the company overall doesn't make them feel special. We live in this generation now, or multi-generations, where we all want to feel special. We want to feel validated. I don't necessarily think that there's something really wrong with that, as long as you're, of course, not a brat about it, or you feel really privileged about it. But it's okay to want to feel like an individual, to feel that you matter. And I think that big companies that understand this are starting to move in the direction where they are bringing in speakers and they are bringing in workshops and things like that, where they're helping, say, for example, my friend Smiley, he does workshops on making millennials in the workplace feel more connected. So they feel more connected with both the older generation and the younger generation, so they can be better at work.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, one of my best friends, Gary Ware, who you have to meet, he was an ad agency veteran too, but he's also an improv actor. And he now partners with big companies and helping them get the older generation, the millennial generation, to work together through play and just having fun. And it's not me versus them, in such a cool way. So
cool.
Question for you then is, do you find that video is what really became the tipping point for you in terms of building your personal brand?
So I also find this so funny because I have been behind the scenes to build personal brands for so many Fortune 500 C-level executives and other very influential, huge people. I've always been a little bit of the puppet master, but I've never quite had that interest in building my personal brand, especially, as a marketer or really as anything almost.
Yeah.
And when I started doing video content, I wasn't necessarily thinking about building my own personal brand either, because of course, if I was, I would do it strategically, like I said, which is, who is your demographic? Why are you doing this? And I would have probably started with very different content. But when I started doing video, that made my brand, which is so fascinating to me because I write. I'm actually more of traditionally a writer, which is why I'm in the Producers Guild too, is I'm used to writing and organizing and things like that. But now everyone knows me for video. And not to say that I don't love video, because I absolutely do believe video is the future, but I think it's really interesting and funny what you get known for.
That is very true, right? Because I had also,
Yeah.
I'd always been on the ad agency side, and kind of like you, like the clients was always like the Beyonce, and I was always like the backup singer, just kind of like singing their praises and whatnot. And it wasn't until live video came out that it just became the tipping point. So, what about video for you? Did you already know how to edit your video? Did you learn that on the job? Did you go to school for that? Did you take courses?
So I did none of that. I did do some of that. What happened was, even the first video I did on LinkedIn, it's completely unedited. I think the first still is just me going like, it's like at an awkward angle. It's a selfie video. I don't know what I'm doing, And I didn't know how to edit either the front or the back. Like, I didn't even know how to clip a video. So it's at least like, doesn't have that awkward beginning and awkward ending. And along the way, and I have a video team, a great video team that I work with for my clients, for my social media marketing clients. I am a very stubborn person. And so it was very important to me that I learn how to edit and do this content on my own, also because I don't want to distract my team from the client work that they're doing, because these two things are separate.
Yeah.
So I learned very painfully over the first at least like 200 videos. So think about how many days that is. 200 daily consecutive videos, how to literally at least do a bare edit. And I mean like the kind of edit where it's like, ta-da, the beginning frame doesn't look absolutely terrible. The end frame, like you cut off that part where you're like, stop.
Ooh, yeah.
Right? Stop.
Stop.
And, maybe even put in like a graphic that says like what the video is about. It took me maybe 250 days to just understand very basically how to do that.
Yeah.
But I wanted to learn how to do it while doing. So
Love it.
Definitely take classes on learning how to do video stuff if you want to learn faster.
Very, very true. So, Gael, I hope I said your name right. She says, it's always important to know how to do the thing yourself, at least at a basic level. Yes. Right? Because then you can at least tell people what you like and what you don't like. And kind of be able to describe it. Because I feel like sometimes when people ask me to fix things and they make up words, and I'm like, that's not a word.
Or they use terms that are not commonly used in the industry and stuff like that. Like, I know how to make video or film on a much bigger scale than the vlogs that I actually do for LinkedIn. So it's really funny when I sometimes use these terms with people who are used to just doing vlogs and they've learned from scratch and they've never dealt with film or TV people, and I use terms that they're just like, what does that mean? Like, I had to explain the rule of thirds to somebody the other day because they just never heard of the rule of thirds, and like understanding like spatially where you look really good on camera, and all these things that you know when you have done a little bit more professional TV or film work, or you just have taken a lot of courses and studied it.
Yeah. And speaking of courses, I mean, you have a personal branding course yourself, right? That you teach people on how they could go ahead and build and grow their brand online. Is that right?
So actually, I don't have a personal branding course quite yet, but I do have three amazing courses that are currently out on LinkedIn Learning right now. So you can check it out. And in fact, if you have a California, Texas, or New York library card, you can access these courses for free on Lynda. Yay!
What? I did not know
Yeah.
that.
So this is why I tell people when they say like, oh, I don't want to, I don't want to buy things or, invest in it. But I mean, the LinkedIn Learning Library is also really amazing. So to me, it's worth the investment, but I have these three great courses, but there's no excuse because you can literally get a library card and access them.
That is very true. And I think the last time I went to a public library, because I have my daughter, they actually have 3D printers there. And I was like, wait a second. You guys are 3D printing in the library now? I don't even have a 3D printer. I was like looking up things that I can make. Thought that was pretty awesome. Okay,
Yeah, there's so many amazing things at libraries. Yay, libraries.
Yeah, yay, libraries. Yeah, I was very much a nerd when I was growing up too. I mean, it was just I would take my bus pass and I would go to the library and I would read all the Judy Blume books and the little Indian in the cupboard. That was my thing. But yeah, love the library. Support your local library, you guys. For sure, do that. So then, as far as platforms go, where's the best place to really grow your personal brand?
So I think it depends on what your goals are, right? If you're a visual person, like a photographer or anyone that works really with the visual field, Instagram makes so much sense for that. Instagram and Pinterest, because they're both very, very visual platforms. If you are at all business or marketing or branding, etc., related or entrepreneurship, to me, LinkedIn makes the most sense for that because that's where people who overall have money that could possibly become your clients and invest in you, that's where they live. I mean, let's be honest, LinkedIn is just the best for everything.
Wait, do you want to say that again and then that'll be your clip?
I know. Yeah, LinkedIn is the best for everything. I'm such a fan of LinkedIn because it's where decision makers live. And they don't all live they're just not all aggregated onto any other platform. Like they don't all necessarily live even on Facebook or on Instagram or on Twitter, etc. But they all live on LinkedIn. So even the most archaic person probably has, at the bare minimum, a LinkedIn profile, but they may not have a presence anywhere else on the internet. So that's why I think LinkedIn is so interesting of a place to build your personal brand. Now, once again, that being said, if you, for example, are a journalist or press, then Twitter makes the most sense for you. So it really depends on what your big goals are with your brand.
Oh, I love that. Love, 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 love that. And as far as LinkedIn goes, are there any new features that we should be looking out for? Because, I've been eyeing groups just to see if they're going to do anything different with groups. You're obviously doing LinkedIn Live. So sick. Anything else that like us general population can be looking forward to maybe for like the rest of the year?
So I think definitely keep an eye out just on video in general, right? As it grows and matures on LinkedIn because it's so new. There's one tip that I want to share with everyone, which I am so bad and I haven't done this because I haven't had time. So you're getting a tip that I know works, but I haven't had time to do, which is there's a PDF function on LinkedIn now. And so if you post PDFs on LinkedIn as a post, they have been doing really well in the feed. So that is my pro tip for just right now, maybe not even future thinking, but just right now. And as for groups, I know that there's a dedicated groups team at LinkedIn that is hoping to expand and grow the groups functionality a lot more. I went to a super top secret groups party thing at LinkedIn last year, which was the most hilarious thing to me because they used one of my friends as an example within the group, within the mock-up of the UI of the new groups. And I secretly took a snapshot and I sent it to him and I was like, you're being talked about. But yeah, I know that groups is going to be developing and evolving quite a bit more. And something else that I believe is still in beta is also LinkedIn events. So you'll be able to start to have events that are available on LinkedIn that you can share on LinkedIn directly, currently the iteration that it's in right now, you drop an Eventbrite into it,
Yeah.
and then you can still share that that LinkedIn event on LinkedIn.
Got it. Got it. Okay, cool. So it's not, it has to be a physical event tied to Eventbrite. It's not just it can be like a virtual event, like you're live streaming.
Yeah, so unfortunately, in terms of like notifying people of things that are happening in the future, regular posts are still happening. Wow, I just lost track. Sorry, guys. I just had two 14-hour shoot days in a row, so I'm zoning a little bit, but I'm focused now. Yes, yeah, a couple of these products will just come to fruition a little bit later. I just saw that there is a question from Jennifer. When will LinkedIn Live happen for the rest of us? Guys, I heart you all, but please stop inboxing me with this question. I literally get so many inbox across every single platform, I really have to say, asking me when LinkedIn Live will be available for everyone. I can say right now that I signed so many NDAs with LinkedIn. I have signed more NDAs with LinkedIn than I have signed with any of my most restrictive clients I have ever worked with.
Wow.
And so unfortunately I can't comment on when LinkedIn Live will be available to the general public.
Yeah.
But, keep an eye out, keep watching. That's all I can say about that.
Just stay tuned, you guys. Just
Stay
keep following
tuned,
what's
guys.
happening on LinkedIn, and because
Yeah.
I feel like for those that are really interested in LinkedIn and are just only waiting for LinkedIn Live, they're missing the boat in terms of all the other features and all the other connections that you could be doing to build your personal brand. Like, live streaming isn't going to be your magic bullet for you to become
Yes.
top of mind in your industry. There's other things that you could do to connect with people, and Goldie just started just uploading videos, and that's worked out for her, and she's been very consistent. So if that's what you want to do in terms of building your audience on LinkedIn, then model after success, and success is obviously Goldie. So be patient.
But yes, I think that's so true. Not the model after Goldie only, but definitely try doing different kinds of content on LinkedIn. Try writing, right? Try writing status messages. Try uploading photos or videos. I think you're completely right, Stephanie, to not expect that a new feature will be the magic bullet. I will say there were at least 10 to 20 other people, maybe more, who start out in the LinkedIn video beta the same time I did, right? Exact same time. We all got in. We all started making videos at the same time. A lot of them have completely dropped off the map. And for the most part, pretty much no one has as big of a brand as I have. And a lot of it is just stubbornness. Like, I stuck with it. I just kept making videos, and my videos in the beginning were terrible. They just weren't that great. They were like really shaky and nausea inducing. But I just stuck with it, and I stuck with the kind of content I believed in. I didn't just do it because I was like, oh, this is new, I'm going to hit, like, I'm going to be amazing. Because there's a lot of other people who made even up to maybe 50 videos who never hit, who also were in the video beta, because they just, after they did maybe even 30 videos, they're like, well, I haven't seen any traction, so I'm going to stop, because obviously this will never work.
Yeah,
right?
I get that all the time, especially with live video.
All the time with Facebook Live.
Yeah. I mean, same thing on my end, because I get a lot of people that are like, oh, I'm just gonna start doing live video, and I didn't get like X amount of views in my first video, and it's like, you got to keep practicing, and you got to figure out what it is exactly that your audience wants. So, circling back to what you said earlier, knowing who you're serving with your content and who your personal brand is going to tie back to, and I think that's super important. One last question for you, because I know you're just like, I'm tired. But what are some personal branding landmines that specific industries should avoid?
So it really depends on I so love that you use the word industry, because different industries have different parameters for personal branding. When you're just generally an entrepreneur, there's so many fewer restrictions on what you can do in terms of your personal branding, aka Elon Musk. But but when you work in a field like, say, finance, healthcare, right? Any of these places that have actual restrictions on what you can and cannot say because the industry regulates it, that's when you want to be really careful about the kind of brand you're building and literally about what kind of content you're putting out there. So I just gave a talk to the American Bar Association. So I talked to a bunch of lawyers. Also, it was a one webinar, and this was the longest contract I've ever signed to do one webinar because it was a contract made by lawyers for content for lawyers.
Well, wouldn't you feel sketchy if it was like the shortest one? You'd be like, wait a second, is this really a thing?
I would just love it if it was like, I, Goldie Chan, hereby sign away my soul, you know, to the lawyers, like to American Bar Association. But with lawyers too, there's so many restrictions on what they can and cannot say, but that doesn't mean, once again, that they can't have their own personality within those parameters. But it's so important to know what is appropriate in your industry, because most people think, I just want to be like wild and crazy. I want to be Gary Vee. I want to cuss. I want to do all this stuff. Like, I want to break the boundaries, break the barriers. And people get really mad at me for saying, like, you have to know where the boundaries are. Yeah. But that's the thing. If you do want to go past the boundaries, you should reasonably know what the boundaries are, just in terms of, most people don't do this. And then the other set of boundaries, which is, this is like lawfully prohibited. So there are two boundaries in every industry, which is like, most people don't do this, which that's the boundary you can kind of cross and toe the line on. And then there's like, this is literally illegal. So one of the things I've been noticing with video content and some content on LinkedIn is, because it's so new and not as regulated. You know, on Instagram, anytime something is an ad now or sponsored, people have been getting so much better about, you know, writing like hashtag ad, hashtag sponsored. And I've been noticing a lot of posts on LinkedIn that are sponsored posts don't have those hashtags. And that to me is, you're crossing that line of, that actually legally is no bueno. Because if they decide to go back and retroactively check some of those posts, then you're on the hook legally, because you didn't drop in those hashtags. So that's kind of like the two boundaries I see when you're thinking about within your industry, like, how far can you push the envelope?
Yeah. Well, that's amazing advice. Yeah. You know, I think there's other people too, you know, when they're doing video, they still think that like doing a video while driving your car is really cool. And it's like, that's a big no. And so staying in those guardrails, staying in those lanes, not creating content just for the likes or just for the algorithms, but also being mindful of your audience and what's really going to resonate with them, and also being safe with it. You know, don't know your boundaries.
Yeah, just know, I think, being safe, like, please don't I live in Los Angeles, so I live in the selfie capital of the world, let's be honest. There are a million people taking videos in their cars or doing content while just walking across the street, and they're not looking at the cars like going past them. They're just like, I'm getting this on my video, like I'm getting this on YouTube. I think it's still important to not die while creating video content or any other kind of other content. Like, just use common sense. So a lot of stuff is common sense too. Like, I know that it's really important when you're thinking about building a personal brand. You want to stick out. You want to be crazy and wild because you want to get those likes. But sometimes let common sense, a lot of times, most of the time, please let common sense win out. And I've had people, like rush up to me when they recognize me, which I think is amazing. But there's so many times where people want so desperately to take a video with me or take a photo with me. I get just a camera shoved in my face without any introduction whatsoever. And they're like, hey guys, I'm here with Goldie Chan, and like, it's amazing, blah, blah, blah. And I don't know what's going on. I haven't been introduced. Like, this is just general. Please use your common sense. Like, don't do this with people that you recognize. Please don't just shove a camera in their face or do things without asking for their permission. But that's me and my personal brand too. Because I know that there's people out there who like to push the boundaries on that stuff so they can get off the cuff content and things like that, I personally think that ends up damaging your reputation in the long run. But you also end up developing a very specific kind of personal brand, a very specific kind of reputation. So,
Very true. Well, good, good, good. Goldie, this has been absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. Lots of good nuggets here. And you guys, if you love Goldie as much as I do, you could definitely find her on LinkedIn. What's the best ways? Are you like a follow you on LinkedIn type person, or actually make the connection? Because I've had people like make clear distinctions, and I was like, okay.
I think I did change my connect button to a follow. I think I didn't do it. I think LinkedIn did it for me. So I think I now have just kind of a semi-permanent follow button on LinkedIn. But of course, if there's ever, any business reasons or any speaking engagements that you'd like to book me for, please, of course, connect with me or send me an in message. So many fun messages I get, and of course, outside of the when is LinkedIn Live going live, Goldie, but I do get really fun in-mail messages. So I encourage everyone, if you have something you want to say, please just send me a message, and it's all good.
There should be like a LinkedIn Messenger bot where, like, if they say LinkedIn Live to you in your message, the automatic message will be like, your LinkedIn will now self-destruct in 10, 9.
I just feel bad because I know this is why also that this is the irony, this is the circle, right? I don't have an answer that I can give, so
Yeah.
people keep asking me to give a definitive answer, but I can't. So sorry, guys.
I mean, to your point, just look at all of the other features and the functionalities that LinkedIn has to offer. Groups, like you said, there's a dedicated team towards that, and they're working on it. And you gave us the PDF insight, which I think is really cool, because so many of my viewers, you guys are totally making, your lead magnets and whatnot. Think of how you could leverage that. Because don't the PDFs take like a much bigger real estate in the news feed?
Yes, so right now they're not only prioritized in the feed, which, we so rarely know what's prioritized in the feed on any social media platform. So to know for a fact that something is currently prioritized, that's a win already. And this is, a live video. So if you watch this next week and that isn't the case, then I'm sorry, guys, too bad. But right now, as we're recording this live, like, this is the case. But yes, it also takes up more real estate in the feed. So as I'm, say, going through my LinkedIn on my phone, I'm going to see that PDF pop up first. And of course, as always, just be very careful when you're creating content like PDFs, that it doesn't look just 100% salesy, that it has value added to it, so people won't just see it as an ad.
Very cool. Well, all right. Thank you, Goldie. I'll let you go. Go get some rest before your next trip, and we'll see you there. We'll go ahead and say bye to everyone. Give them a little outro. Bye, y'all.